Okay, welcome back to the Seahawk Boys Fearless and Stupid NFL channel. My name is Mike Barrow, or Seahawk Boy Mike from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm your host for today's show. It's great to have you guys with us, and we're going to try out a new thing today. We have a new introduction, and the audio doesn't seem to be working. Some StreamYard setting. Maybe I need to move this all over to Restream. I don't know. But at any rate, welcome to the show, and let's get into the discussion as to whether or not Russell Wilson is Hall of Fame. There's the video. So it does play, but apparently I can't hear it on my end. So I'm just watching it here live on YouTube. Well, anyway, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you guys here, all one or two or three or four or five. Whoever may be here, and others will be joining. But we don't care. Here's the thing: we do not care whether people show up to our stream or not. We really don't. We only care that somebody's watching. We only care that the content is getting out there, and we only care that we are doing our best to wake up the Seahawks blogosphere. We're doing our best to wake up Seahawks YouTube, which is a vast wasteland of stupidity. Now, that stupidity is led by people like Davis Sue, who has a diseased soul and is a convicted felon, Brian Nemsculler, Seahawks retard Nelson, who is absolutely the worst of the group. He just says so many dumb things and thinks so many dumb things. It's really hard to imagine, but all of these guys are unanimous, along with various other members of Seahawks Twitter, Seahawks YouTube, and Seahawks journalism in general. They're almost universal in their hatred and criticism of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the greatest quarterback the Seattle Seahawks have ever had. He's probably the greatest quarterback the Seattle Seahawks ever will have. But the question is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer? And some people say yes, some people say no. I say he is. And we're going to talk about why he is and why he isn't. And we're going to try to keep this relatively brief today. But I thought we would get into the discussion and kind of look at why people don't like Russ as a football player. There's a lot of reasons they don't like him as a person. They say he's corny. He's very religious. He spends all of his days off at children's hospitals and occasionally puts up social media about it. And people seem to have a problem with that. People seem to dislike that. They talk about how cringe he is. Why is he cringe? Because he's not a weirded out, P. Diddy loving, LeBron James loving leftard, although he is pretty liberal. I don't get it. He's a religious man. He did more for this community than any other Seahawk, as far as I can tell. And he's the 2020 NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year, which shows you what he does for the community. And yet he was viciously booed on his return to Seattle because Pete Carroll and John Schneider had created this false narrative that he had forced his way out. Well, not really. It was time for a divorce because Pete and John are idiots, but we'll get into that on another stream another time. So the case against Russ, there are people like Mark Schlereth and, like I said, Seahawks retard Nelson and Davis Sue, who are, talking about how guys that have always hated Russell Wilson, East Coast sports writers mostly. Mark Schlereth, who is trying to cover up for the failure of his good buddy Sean Payton as a head coach, that, it's just Hall of Fame legacy has been ruined by these last 2 years. Look, last year in Denver, in spite of the fact he was surrounded by no talent, terrible coaching, and in fact, a coach who was undermining him at every turn, trying to create an outburst so they could void his contract that they had signed onto. In spite of all that, he had 26 touchdowns. He only had 8 interceptions, and he had a 98 quarterback rating. That would put him in the top 10 all time. That was a 15 game season. He was benched for the last two. He was benched in spite of all that. Okay. So those are the people who go after Russ. Now, what are the criticisms of Russell over the years? The case against Russell Wilson. Well, they used to say at the beginning he can't throw from the pocket. Okay. He can't throw from the pocket. They said he can't read defenses. They say he can't beat the cover two. Now, this is the cover two defense, this little graphic we've got right here. Um, Basically, cover two is two deep safeties to try to prevent anything over the middle. They then say he can't throw over the middle. Well, if you're facing a lot of cover two, you don't throw over the middle in general. You pick at the edges and make them come up and make plays and make tackles. And then the last criticism, this one really gets me. He's not as good as Mahomes or Drew Brees or guys like that, which makes no sense to me because Brees isn't even the same style of quarterback. He's basically a sit in the pocket and throw it over the middle kind of guy into the seams for Sean Payton, and really couldn't throw the ball deep very effectively and couldn't run at all. So I don't see any comparison there. And frankly, if you gave me a choice of the two, I'm taking Russ over Brees every time. As to the he's not as good as Mahomes thing, well, let's go back and look at what Patrick Mahomes walked into. He sat for a year, learned how to be a professional behind Alex Smith, former number one overall pick, who was a consummate professional, has a Hall of Fame offensive scheming head coach in Andy Reid, had two Hall of Fame receivers in Travis Kelce as his safety valve at tight end and Tyreek Hill on the outside. Also had other guys, other number one picks at wide receiver, lots of Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, and solid running games. That's what Patrick Mahomes walked into. Now, in terms of physical talent, I have never seen Patrick Mahomes do anything that I haven't already seen Russell Wilson do. But I have seen Russell Wilson do a few things that I've never seen Patrick Mahomes do. Now, that doesn't mean Patrick Mahomes can't do them. And we're going to look at some video of one of those today. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but I haven't seen him do it yet in 5 or 6 years. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe somebody out there knows of a play that's similar to the ones I'm going to show you. But, that this is what they say. This is what the criticisms are. Okay, so let's look at each of these individually. Let's look at the he can't read defenses and he can't throw from the pocket. Let's go out here and look at some videos of Russell Wilson. This is the NFC Championship game. It's in overtime. Russell Wilson, after getting concussed on one of the dirtiest, most illegal hits, probably the dirtiest hit by Clay Matthews I've ever seen, a shot to the jaw in the second quarter on a run back on an interception, deliberate head hunting shot. Should have been ejected from the game, should have been suspended for probably a year, at least 4 games, given what he did to Russell Wilson. It was intentional. It was a headshot. It was vicious. We're not going to go over that now. But Clay Matthews, if you're watching by any chance, if you ever see this, you're a piece of shit. Okay. But Russell Wilson led the Seahawks on a comeback. We got an onside kick. We tied the game. We took the lead. Unfortunately, the Legion of Boom let us down in the NFC Championship game. Couldn't keep the Packers and Aaron Rodgers out of field goal range, and they sent the game into overtime. Now, the Seahawks won the toss. Russell Wilson made a couple of downfield plays, and then it came down to this. I want you to watch Russell Wilson very carefully as we go up to this highlight. And okay, apparently I'm not going to do that. And let's play this sucker. Oh, what? I see something. I see something. Oh, there he is in the pocket. Throws deep right over the middle. Touchdown. Main curse. So there it is, folks. One of the greatest comebacks in NFL history, one of the greatest moments in Seahawks history. And let's go back to that moment and look at it in a little more detail. Okay. Let's go back and look at a little more detail here. So as they come up to the line of scrimmage, what you're going to see is you're going to see Russ. Let's go back here. Comes up to the line of scrimmage. Now, what he recognizes immediately by reading the defense is that the Packers are all packed up close. He sees that there's no safety deep. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys within 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. He sees that there's no safety. He knows he's got Jermaine Kearse one-on-one on the outside. He sees Doug Baldwin over. I think it's Doug Baldwin. One-on-one on the other side. He signals to Jermaine Kearse, who goes straight down the field and beats his man. And then what he's going to do is he's going to throw the ball from the pocket right down the middle for the game-winning touchdown. Let's watch it again and watch what Russ does when he comes to the line of scrimmage. He recognizes the defense immediately, changes the play, and wins the game to send the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, where Pete Carroll threw it away on the 2-yard line. There he is signaling. He recognizes the defense, changes the play, snaps, pretends to look to the left, goes deep to the right, right up the middle, touchdown. So right there in literally one play, you see three of these false narratives burned away. You can't throw from the pocket, you can't read defenses, and you can't throw over the middle. Now the cover two stuff is different. So none of that is true about Russell Wilson. In fact, if you go and you look at Russell Wilson's career stats, if you look at him over the years, his total touchdowns in his career is over 350, almost 360. Okay. Are you seriously going to tell me Davis Sue or Mark Schlereth that nobody has played cover two defense against Russell Wilson for the last 12 years of his career since he's been in the NFL, 11 years, whatever it is? I mean, let's look at his touchdown pass totals. 2012, it's rookie year, 26, 26, 20, 34, 21, 34, 35, 31, 40, 25, 16, 26. 16 was the injury shortened year. Sorry, 25 was the injury shortened year. 22 was the Hackett disaster in Denver. 26 last year. Nobody throws that many touchdown passes. Nobody without throwing against cover twos. They've been playing cover two against him his entire career. And he's been beating it his entire career. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't throw down the middle that much. Well, yeah, he doesn't. And it's not because he's 5'9", but if they're playing a lot of cover two against him to try to contain him, that's what you do is you pick the outsides. All right, so let's get into the reasons why Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer. And it's really pretty indisputable. Russell Wilson, just for reference, is 13th all time in career touchdown passes. It's 359. 359 career touchdown passes. He will be 12th all time because he's going to pass. I think Matt Ryan is next on the list before he retires. He's 4th all time in passer rating. 4th all time in passer rating. And unlike other people who poo-poo passer rating, I think passer rating is a very significant stat. He's 19th all time in passing yards at 43,653. He's 20th all time in completion percentage at 64.7. And he came in an era when that was not a major emphasis. Today, a completion percentage of between 65 and 70 is considered almost the norm, or certainly a standard of excellence, because passing game is a very high percentage game these days. This is in spite of the fact that the guy throws deep all the time, is maybe the greatest deep thrower of all time, certainly one of the greatest deep ball throwers of all time. He still has that completion percentage, puts him 20th. He's third all time in touchdown to interception ratio. And for quarterbacks, the touchdown to interception ratio is critical. 3.15, more than a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Third all time. Ninth all time in fourth quarter comebacks at 31. And frankly, I think he has a few more than that. And he's going to move up that list because right now I think he's tied with John Elway. So he'll be 8th or 7th or 6th because he always comes back in the fourth quarter. He had 2 or 3 of them last year. I think that number's low. Third all time in quarterback rushing yards, 5,307. I think Cam Newton and maybe Steve Young have more yards than him. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Third all time in quarterback rushing yards. 13th all time in quarterback rushing touchdowns at 29. He's one of only 4 quarterbacks in NFL history to pass for 4,000 yards, more than 4,000 yards, and rush for more than 500 yards in a single season. Only he and Josh Allen have ever done that twice. The most passing yards in a playoff game ever by a rookie, 385 yards as a rookie. Most fourth quarter touchdown passes in a single season, 16. He did that in 2017. 2020 Walter Payton Man of the Year. The only quarterback in NFL history to have winning seasons his first 9 years. And no, the last 3 were without the Legion of Boom. 9-time Pro Bowler, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and a Super Bowl champion. That is indisputably a Hall of Fame resume. Basically, he is top 20 all time in the NFL in every meaningful statistical category for quarterbacks. How do you even argue with that? How does anybody in their right mind even argue with that? Now, his best season, probably arguably, in almost every category was 2020. In 2020, he played all 16 games and a playoff game. His completion percentage was almost 69%. His yardage was 4,212, a career high, and a Seahawk record for a 16-game season. No, Geno does not hold the record from 2022. He played an extra game. 40 touchdowns, his career high. He led the NFL in touchdowns in 2017 when he had 34. He had 6 more touchdowns than that. Touchdown percentage of 7.2, pretty close to a career high. Only 13 interceptions. And his quarterback rating that year was 105.1. In 2015, he led the entire NFL in the quarterback rating with 110.1. 2020 was the best year he ever had at the age of 32. Now, what was unique about that year? Well, that was the year that we had let Russ cook. For the first 8 games of the NFL season, we were in let Russ cook mode. So what that meant is that they were gearing the offense towards Russell Wilson. They were running the plays he wanted to run. Don't forget, and I think it was a 2019 game in Pittsburgh. His radio headset went out. Couldn't hear Shane Waldron or Shoddy, whoever was calling the plays. He called his own plays, 76-yard touchdown drive, touchdown pass. Did it all by himself. So if a guy can't read defenses, how does he call plays that well? Now, let Russ cook only came to an end. I mean, think about this. Look at again, look at this, look at these stats. You have to understand, Pete Carroll pulled the plug on let Russ cook in week 10 of the 2020 season because the offense was scoring so fast that his shitty defense couldn't keep up. They were averaging during that first 8 games 31.4 points per game, the highest of any Seahawks team in Seahawk history. And Pete Carroll pulled the plug because his defense couldn't stop the Buffalo Bills. He wanted to go away from a high scoring offense and slow the game down. Don't believe me? Like I said, okay, well, let's look at this. These are Russell Wilson's passing charts from 2020. We don't have all of them. Here's week 5. Yeah, that was an average 217 yards, 20 completions, only 32 attempts, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Week 7, 33 of 50, 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Week 8, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Week 9, Buffalo Bills, 390 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then Pete pulls the plug, and the team's scoring average goes from 31.4 points per game to 16 and some change points per game. And it stayed that way Russell's last year here in 2021, culminating in the playoff game against the Rams, where Pete's impotent offense that he had taken out of the hands of Russell Wilson ended up with 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and ultimately led to the divorce a year later between the Seahawks and Russell Wilson because Russ didn't want to play like that anymore. And who could blame him? Now, I got into an argument with Seahawks retard Nelson about, oh, well, they didn't pull the plug. It was all Russ. Russell failed. Russell couldn't get the ball out anymore. He was the problem. Pete never said anything about pulling the defense in. Oh yeah? Okay. Okay, let's take a look at let's take a look at Pete Carroll and see what he had to say. Sorry, that's not stage. That's not what he had to say. What he had to say was this right after the Buffalo Bills game. Let's watch and listen to Pete Carroll because this is when he pulled the plug. Okay, so apparently I'm having more technical difficulties, but let's play that one more time. No, on defense, just on defense. Okay, I've heard enough. This illustrates to me everything as to why I'm so glad Pete Carroll got fired, because that was the moment he blames turnovers. Russ had 2 interceptions. The team lost not because of turnovers, because Russ had to throw the ball all over the place because his defense couldn't stop anybody. They sacked the Bills 8 or 9 times in that game. 6 times. I don't remember what it was. It was a record. And yet the Seahawks were consistently 11 to 14 points behind. And so they were throwing the ball and throwing the ball and throwing the ball. And yeah, you're going to occasionally have interceptions when that happens. But he was basically there blaming the offense and Russell Wilson. What he was saying and what he said in interviews the next couple of days was, oh, we're scoring too fast. So he wanted to slow the game down to a crawl, which he did. And the team went from 6-2 to being bounced out in the first round of the playoffs because they had no offense and nobody had to worry about them going deep on them because Pete wouldn't let Russ throw deep. So when Russ was allowed to cook, Mark Schlereth, Russ kicked ass. Now, as we go back through those categories I talked about, 4th all time in passer rating, 19th all time in passing yards, 3rd all time in touchdown interception ratio. As you go through it, let's look at the players. Let's look at them that Russell Wilson is ahead of in one or more of those categories. Let's just take a look at a few. And there's many more. John Elway up there in the upper left-hand corner. There's Warren Moon. John Elway's a Hall of Famer. Warren Moon's a Hall of Famer. Oh, he's ahead of Joe Montana in touchdown passes. Joe Montana's in the Hall of Fame and was considered the GOAT for a long time. Johnny Unitas. He's ahead of Johnny Unitas. Oh, there's Dan Fouts. Look, he's ahead of Dan Fouts in categories. Oh, Jim Kelly. He's ahead of Jim Kelly in some categories. Oh, there's Steve Young. Look at that. There's Steve Young. He's ahead of Steve Young in several categories. There's Terry Bradshaw, 4-time Super Bowl winner. He's ahead of him in a whole bunch of categories. Oh, look, Brett Favre, the gunslinger, John Madden's favorite quarterback ever. He's way ahead of him in some categories. The guy I consider the best quarterback I've ever seen, Peyton Manning. There he is, slumping off the field after Russ beat him in the Super Bowl 48. He's ahead of him in several categories. And Tom Brady, the GOAT. Russ is ahead of Tom Brady, the GOAT, in a couple of categories. What do these guys all have in common? They're all in the Hall of Fame. Every single one of them is in the Hall of Fame. So if that doesn't tell you that Russell Wilson belongs in the Hall of Fame, you're too stupid to watch my blog. You're too stupid to be here. He's top 20 in every significant, meaningful statistical category. He's ahead of multiple Hall of Famers in all of those important categories. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. He would have won 2 if it wasn't for Darrell Bevell and Pete Carroll's play calling, 2 in a row. And even at age, 34, 35, 36, he's still able to throw for 26 touchdowns against 8 interceptions and have a 98 quarterback rating, 98.8 or whatever it is. He's a phenomenal player. He's an easy Hall of Famer. So, I don't know. I don't know what people want from Russell Wilson. I don't know why he attracts such hatred. But this guy made basically every big play the Seattle Seahawks have ever had in the playoffs and the Super Bowls. It was Russ. But I want to focus now on 2 last plays before we get out of here that I think illustrate just what a brilliant competitor and player he is. The first is in the 10-degree or minus 10-degree game in Minnesota, which should never have been fucking played outside, against the Vikings. Let's watch this play carefully. Because this is, I think, Russell Wilson in more than a nutshell. It expresses his absolutely phenomenal skill set. All right, let's go full screen and take it away, Russ. Okay, so what what is significant about this? Watch this. Russ is the snap is going to go over his head, and Russ doesn't even have his mouthpiece in. If you watch this, the guy is so calm and has such presence of mind that he is actually going to adjust and replace his mouthpiece before he turns, looks downfield, and makes a play. Absolutely phenomenal. Places it, goes down, picks it up, looks downfield, makes a huge play that sets up the Seahawks' first touchdown. Any way you slice it, absolutely any way you slice it, that is elite presence of mind and intangible play, what they like to talk about, the intangibles. Now, let's switch over and look at another play. This is a play from the 2019, I believe, Rams game. I think it was a Thursday night. Seahawks are playing the Rams, and it's 6-0 Rams. Seahawks are behind in the first quarter. They've got to get some stuff generated. What are they going to do? What will they do? What will they do? Well, watch what Russell Wilson does here. Just sit back and watch this throw.
That's right. On first down, Wilson keeps. Surveys, nowhere to go, and back in the end zone. Touchdown! What a catch by Tyler Lockett.
I mean, do you guys realize
Jones, a second-year pro, fifth-round pick out of Ohio State last year?
This is the, I think, I'm going to say this. This is the greatest throw I have ever seen. He takes the ball from under center. Okay. He's under pressure. He's rolling against his body to his left, which is his weak side. He's a right-handed player. So he gets the snap. He's under pressure from the outside. He gets flushed out of the pocket to the left. And then against his body, on his heels, he makes a throw 35 yards downfield with absolute. Look at this. This is against his body, under pressure from two guys. He throws the ball 35 yards downfield into the corner to the only place that only one of his receivers can catch it. On his tiptoes. This is literally perfect ball placement. Perfect ball placement while throwing against his body, backing away from the pressure, with absolutely dropping it in 35 yards downfield. Let's watch it again.
On first down, Wilson keeps. Surveys, nowhere to go, and back in the end zone. Touchdown!
Now that was a great catch. That was a great catch by Tyler Lockett. No question. It's also the greatest throw I've ever seen. I've been watching NFL football since Super Bowl III, since Joe Namath beat the unbeatable Baltimore Colts 16-7 in Miami. I have never seen a throw that good. Against his body, with under pressure, moving to his left, running out of space, coming up against the sideline, and backheeling it with absolute perfection, dropping it into the corner where only his receiver could get it. How did he even see that receiver? With all that pressure and everything, all that stuff going on around him. It's the best throw in NFL history. And you can talk about Ben Roethlisberger in the Super Bowl. That was to his right side in the corner. And people are trying to say, oh, he was throwing it away. It was just an accident. No. You can see with absolute intention that he was putting it right where Tyler Lockett was going to be. And it's not like Tyler Lockett is 6'7" or 6'5". He's a little guy, under 6 feet, 6 feet tall. He put it with absolute perfection. Now, this is what I mean when I say I have never seen Patrick Mahomes do that. I've seen him make some throws moving to his left. I've never seen him do that with that level of precision and perfection and intent from that far away. If you put Russell Wilson into Patrick Mahomes' situation, prime Russ would be doing anything and everything Mahomes is doing, and maybe even a little more. So if you're going to argue that Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT, I'm going to argue Russell Wilson is too. But absolutely category for all these reasons and many, many more. There is no doubt, no disputing whatsoever. It can't even be discussed that Russell Wilson is not a Hall of Famer. He is Hall of Fame through and through and through. And any team that was lucky enough to have prime Russ would win a Super Bowl. At least one, if not multiple. It also reemphasizes the degree to which the Seahawks front office squandered prime Russell Wilson. They should have won at least 2 and maybe 3 out of 5 Super Bowls, maybe even 4. But the idiocy of this front office, which continues unabated to this day, apparently, kept that from happening. So, is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer? Is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer? Yeah, he is. Don't forget, go to SeahawkBoys2017.blogspot.com. That's where I post these videos and other things. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel you're watching this on now. Seahawk Boys, Fearless and Stupid NFL channel. And I think we absolutely can answer the question, is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer? Yeah. Russ is absolutely a Hall of Famer. Thanks for being here. See you next time. Go Hawks. Penix is not going to make it to 16. Love you guys. Bye.